It's week commencing the 25th of January 2021, and today's lesson on Thursday is about further techniques for writing persuasively. First of all, can you match up these fragments or sentences with their linguistic devices? Here are the answers. The lesson objectives today are about how to formulate your point of view. We're going to refer to Mr. Salis' videos, which is all about the best skills for writing persuasive text. We're going to revise rhetorical and persuasive techniques. We're going to look at some great article openers and some signpost phrases, and you're going to start writing a really great article. This is the title of the Mr. Salis video, where he gives you lots of really good hints, up to 18 minutes, on how to write persuasively. What did Mr. Salis recommend you do? Well, he said, do question 5, the writing question, first. Plan really quickly. Structure it with the main argument for your point of view and also counter argument, followed by more support, and put your most powerful argument last. Impress your readers by arguing against what you really believe to force you to use good techniques. Remember to use techniques, proofread for sentences, spelling, punctuation and grammar, and make your sentences interesting by varying them, which we've looked at in other lessons. You can start your sentences in all different ways to make them interesting. Start with a verb, viewing it logically, an adverb, carefully dealing with the results of this, a noun, uniform is a great equaliser, an adjective, boring uniform means. Use a complex sentence where one part depends on the other to make sense, to add interest. Use minor or short sentences for effect and to conclude arguments. There really isn't. Use a semicolon between full sentences. They need to be related to each other. Here is a list of Mr. Salis's recommended techniques for persuasive writing. Use a metaphor. That is the most important method according to the examiner's report. Always try and use a metaphor. Use alliteration, direct address, facts, anecdote, triplets, hyperbole, exaggeration, emotive language, rhetorical questions, statistics if you can, contrasting pairs, repetition, someone's opinion if possible, creating an enemy, and, if you can, humour. Here's an example of a model answer written by Mr. Salis. So, you want to get rid of school uniform. Perhaps Daddy and Mummy are rich, 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 and you want to show us all your designer gear, parading an endless range of just off-the-shelf splendour and fashion to make your friends praise you and your rivals sick with envy. Or perhaps you love lounging about at home in your sportswear, festooned with the right labels, hats and trainers, still with their price tags proudly displayed, a sea of pristine white, kept shop display neat. Or perhaps you have other tribes. You're a goth, an emo, an indie, a hipster. You're a dude, a dudette, a geek, a gangster, or some other made-up group you're so desperate to belong to in your teenage years before adult life ruins it all. Notice all the different techniques: direct address, emotive language, anecdote, rule of 3, contrasting pairs, metaphor, creating an enemy, repetition, alliteration, more anecdote, more emotive language, more metaphor, and creating an enemy again. This is the topic we will be writing about today, and you'll be planning it with 3 arguments and 3 for and 3 against. Topic: everyone in modern society should be taught how to set up a business at school. Here is your planning grid: 3 spaces to plan your arguments and 3 for your counter arguments. Now you have your arguments planned, choose which way you're going to argue. and one or two counter-arguments from the other side. Remember, there are different ways to start to try and make the first bit of your article engaging. You could tell a little story, an anecdote, which is touching or shocking. You could make a shocking statement or use a statistic, something that most people would argue with or be upset by. You could use an interesting, real or rhetorical question. I recommend that as it's a great way to start and not hard to do. And it involves direct address to your reader. You could use information, a description, a quote, a comparison, or other methods. We're going to look at some great ways to start an article. Here is 10 different ways to make an engaging wording to the start of your article. 1. While I love writing articles, I just dread putting together the perfect introduction. Imagine you're being asked to... You've thought of an idea, planned your arguments, and decided your view. Now it's time to... As experienced learners at Activate Learning, you know the best way to. You probably don't like exams. You're not alone. Everyone wants to enter the job market on an even playing field, right? Every successful article needs a hook. What defines this hook? Apprenticeships, BTECs or A-levels. There will come a time for every young person to decide. What do you get when you combine a positive attitude, good vocabulary, and GCSEs in maths and English? One young woman in an immaculate suit and beautiful nails but no qualifications sits waiting for an interview. In walks a flustered young man with 8 GCSEs. Who'll get the job? Here are different ways to word different functions within your article. Phrases using that, I believe that, I think that, it seems to me that, it's clear that, etc. Slow the video down if you want to see the examples more slowly. Rhetorical questions. Is it any wonder that? Don't you think? Isn't it clear that? Isn't it the case that? How can anyone believe this to be true? Other phrases. In my opinion, as I see it, as everyone knows, clearly, obviously, inevitably, my own view is, and don't forget that many of these starters have a comma placed after them, including the following, which are initial phrases: surely, firstly, secondly, thirdly, in addition, furthermore, moreover, and possibly also finally. So it's time to write the article, and here is a familiar list of techniques which you've been told about before. Metaphor, rhetorical question, emotive language, triplet, direct address, alliteration, complex sentence, minor or short sentence, semicolon, start a sentence with a verb or an adverb, use inclusive and exclusive pronouns to create an enemy or a friend group, start a sentence with an adjective, and use a quotation. And creating an enemy is repeated again at the bottom of the list.